think about this with me for a second. What is safety? And I'd like to suggest to you that there's a three-part definition that would serve you well in safety. It's basically knowing what can hurt you, knowing what to do about it, and then consistently doing that. So where can complacency come from? Complacency can come from not knowing the risks. If you don't know what the risks are, if you don't know what the hazards are in a workplace, then you tend to think there aren't any because you are unaware of them. Unawareness is a form of complacency, or the two certainly contribute to each other, right? Now, what if you know that there are dangers out there, but you don't know how to address them? You don't know how to eliminate them. You don't know how to control them. You don't know how to minimize them. Well, if there's nothing you can do about it, why worry about it? And if you've done it many times without getting injured, then here's another source of complacency. We know there's a risk, but we don't really know what to do about it, so just go about your daily activities and hope it doesn't bite you. That's a form of complacency also. Now, there's a third form, and this is the kind I think that we think about most often, and that is where you actually do know the risk or the hazard. You actually do know what you ought to do about it, but for some reason you simply don't do it. Now, this again to me is where both habits can address the simple part of this. They need to become habitual. They need to become automatic. The complacency can be completely eliminated when a behavior becomes totally automatic. Complacency is no longer an influencing factor on that behavior. It's the setting down on a seatbelt triggers you to buckle the seatbelt. Setting down on a seat that has a seatbelt triggers you to buckle the seatbelt. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to be, you're not able to be distracted, complacent, inattentive, or any of these other things, because that's not what drives that behavior. You've changed the whole antecedent of that behavior from I've got to think about it, I've got to be serious about it, I've got to give it conscious thought, to no, it's just automatic. Click, and it happens. Now, if it's a more complex task, then this isn't the answer. Obviously, we have to do something with more complex tasks, and we'll talk about that as we get to a little bit further along also. So, key concept number one, that you can start to align people to help address the issues of complacency. What is safety? Safety is knowing the risk, knowing the precautions, and always regularly taking them. So it's 2 parts knowledge and 1 part practice. Now, where does complacency come in? At any one of those 3 levels. Not knowing the risk, not knowing what to do about them, or not doing what you know to do can all come from complacency. But the more you drive this definition, people can't say, well, I'm safe because there's no accident happening. They start asking themselves, what is safe? Well, safe is knowing the risk, knowing the precautions, regularly taking them. Am I doing those 3 things? If you're not doing those 3 things, there's no room for complacency because you're not being safe. Safety is not just not having an accident, it's doing these 3 things. And